I am definitely a big fan of starting your year at any time, and I don't know if it was just me, but this year I really just wasn't in the mood to get started with my goals or my plans or anything major in January. And now that spring is here, I'm definitely feeling a lot more motivated to get started. This is what actually happens to me almost every year. Maybe it's because I was born in April. And so if you also want to get started with any goals or ideas that you wanted to tackle this year, in this video, I'm going to be planning out my next 12 weeks, and I invite you to do it with me too. So let's get started. I feel like I have a pretty solid planning system down after planning out so many pieces of my life and digesting so many different time management strategies to where I now have it into 4 steps. And so first, I like to sit and reflect and also plan out my vision, or at least look at my big vision and what I want for my life in case anything's actually changed. Then the second step is looking at my big vision and dividing it into different areas of my life. And from there, I decide which areas I want to focus on for the next 12 weeks. I feel like it's really easy to get overwhelmed, one, with like the big picture or the big goals that you have, and then 2, wanting to do so many things at once. I don't know if you've read the 12-week year, but I feel like I was doing some of these concepts before, and after I read it, it just made me really like double down on this process, and I really feel like I've made the most progress by focusing on only a few things at a time. Sometimes I also think that we worry that we don't have enough time or that we feel like we need to do everything at once. But as a person who has tons of hobbies and tons of interests and tons of goals, I think I've now started to learn that slowing down and only doing 1 to 3 things at a time makes things move forward a lot quicker than trying to split your already limited time that you might have with your job and other stuff into all of these different buckets to try to do so many things. Then the third step is to put those goals or those ideas into action. It's turning the goals that you want to do for the next weeks into tangible steps and executing them every single week. It might be an activity that you do every week, or maybe there are some task-oriented things as well. I will go more into that as I plan out, but that is step 3. And then the last step is really just to reflect on everything at the end of your 12 weeks to see how far you've come, celebrate, and also decide what you want to do for the next 12 weeks. Today, I am in my office and I am sitting to think about my big life vision. I usually do this every 12 weeks or so. I reflect back on what I wrote before, and then I decide if what I wrote is still aligned with what I imagine my life to be. And then I am also thinking about the different areas of my life that I want to focus on these next 12 weeks. And that's pretty much what I'm going to work on today. I feel like it really takes me a little bit of time to dig into this, and I like to take my time. I also have a little playlist up, see, up here. Some lo-fi music. I also have my water bottle, coffee, and tea. I really just like to be in my element when I'm doing any sort of journaling. I'm also going to put the prompts that I'm using up on the screen. That way you can use them as well. And yeah, we're gonna get going. Hello, I am back. So yesterday I did not finish everything, which I'm totally okay with. It definitely takes me a little bit of time to think about my goals and what I want to accomplish. Yesterday I did sit and think about my big vision, what I want for my life. I looked and saw what changed and progress that I've made. And I also sat and thought about my life areas, and I also made a vision board. So actually, I did quite a bit yesterday. Today, I'm going to take it a step further and move on to step 2 of my process, which is looking at my vision and the areas of my life, choosing the 1 to 3 areas that I really want to focus on these next 12 weeks and setting those goals. So that is my plan for today. The bonus would be actually getting a little bit deeper in planning out my next week. I will see what I do today. If not, I will work on that tomorrow, which is Sunday, and then I'll feel pretty set up for the week. A quick lay of the land. Yesterday, I decided my 8 life areas that are important to me. I feel like these 8 areas give me holistic and balanced life. Yours might be different. And today I am filling out this wheel with those areas and then rating them from 1 to 10 on where I feel satisfied with them right now at this point in time. And so I love the idea of customizing this wheel to what's important to you. I know this exercise is called, or I've heard it being called, the Wheel of Life. I like the idea of actually choosing the areas that you think make a balanced life for you. And so in my exercise, or in this planner workbook, you're able to write them out yourself. So that is what I'm going to work on now. I'm going to look at the 8 that I wrote here, put them here, rate them from 1 to 10, do a little bit of journaling on them, and then use that information to help me dig further into what I want to do these next 12 weeks. All right, and with that, I am going to get started. I'm gonna prop you up here, I think, and we will start journaling. I will put some prompts on the screen again for you too. Hi, I'm back. Okay, that actually took so many hours if you look at the clock and when I started this video. Honestly, it's because after I started reflecting on my life areas and what I wanted to focus on, I got stuck for a little bit. So I just had to take a little bit of a break, think about it, and come back. But I hope that you also made some great progress on your life areas and your goals. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what mine are to maybe inspire you or also just help us hold each other accountable. So after reflecting on my life areas, I honestly feel like I'm just a really harsh critic for myself. I'm super happy and so grateful for my life and how far I've come, but I always look at things being like, oh, there's always room for improvement. So I feel like that's why my life area scores are so low. It's really just that there are so many things that I want to do in each of them to just improve my life, improve my overall well-being. And so as I reflected on my life areas, the 3 that I initially decided to focus on were financial, business, and environmental. But as I was going to break down my goals, which is the next step, I feel like I still had too many things even in these categories. And like I said at the beginning, I think, was that in order to make progress faster, it's really about slowing down, getting focused on 1 to 3 things only and no more. So with that, my 12-week goals are: 1, creating an intentional financial system to fund my 5-week trip. I have been wanting to take a really big trip, and even though in my head and in my heart I want to take it, I have not actually been preparing for it, y'all. So that is a goal of mine, to financially prepare for this trip by creating an intentional system. And so I journaled on that a bit. I journaled settled on why I chose this goal, and I also included steps and milestones to reach that goal. And so some of them include creating a detailed budget for my trip. I also need to decide my savings target and automate that. And some other things that I have are a money date. So that's like a weekly thing that I'll do, and then see where I can reduce spending. My next goal is a business related goal, and that is to complete all remaining tasks to prepare for my planner launch. I created this planner, which is what I am writing in right now. And I feel like I've had not really setbacks, but something is always coming up. And even though I am so passionate and so excited about this, I honestly, if I'm being real with myself, I probably have not prioritized it as much as I could. And it's probably because I hadn't broken down my steps even smaller. I would say, I'm gonna launch this planner, and then I'd keep that in my head and that's it. And so I decided to break my business goals down even further. And this one is completing all remaining tasks to prepare for the launch. And so I'd love to complete all of these in the next 12 weeks. That way, when the future 12 weeks come, it's all about like preparing for the launches and like all of the marketing pieces. So right now I want to focus on the logistics side of it. And I broke down all of the milestones that I need to complete this. Most of these are actual tasks, but if I were to break this down into some sort of recurring frequency, it might be set aside 30 minutes a day to work on these tasks. And so when looking at your goals, I definitely recommend not only having tasks, but have frequency-based actions as well. So that is an example of that. And then my last goal, so this is what happened. I was thinking about financial, business, environmental, but when I thought about business, one part was actually about the logistics of my planner. The other part was about creating consistent content, which is also sort of a hobby as well, but I definitely want to use content, specifically YouTube and my newsletter, as my way of marketing and building community around it. So I had to sit for a bit and decide that those were the three things I wanted to focus on, and I did boot environmental. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to, clean up my spaces and things like that. But some other things that I had on my list were big house projects. And I think that also is kind of contradicting my financial goals as well. And so for now, I'm going to table that and really focus on 2 business goals and my 1 financial goal, which is a personal goal. And so for my 3rd goal, I decided it is create consistent, intentional content that sparks connection and grows a community. I don't want to just create content to churn out content. I love making videos. I love taking photos. I really have started to enjoy writing. I think I really like it because of the connection. I have made so many friends from creating content over the years, and I built so many great relationships. And I see my planner not just as a business, but as a way to connect with people who also want to reach their goals and find people with common interests. And so this time I really want to approach my content not just as a business with an end goal of like converting into planners or whatever. I really want to create content that's fun, that sparks conversations, that really resonates with me and doesn't feel like a chore. I think that's when I start burning out, is when I am like, oh, okay, like I gotta make another video for this, or this. So I want to approach it more intentionally. A couple of the milestones and actions that I have for this are the actual logistics or the actual pieces of my content. So sending out my newsletter every 2 weeks, publishing YouTube videos every 2 weeks, and blog posts, which I would love to do that every 2 weeks as well, but I would be okay if I just put up a blog post a month. I am trying to build a library of posts that also provide further information or helpful materials for the planner. So for example, there's an exercise about doing your core values, and so I'm creating a blog post on how to create your core values or how to figure out what they are or discover them. And then some other things that I have are, reviewing analytics to understand what's working well or what's not working, what needs to be changed. And then one of the obstacles that I wrote when I was journaling on this is that sometimes I get blocked by something. Ideas, filming, editing, or maybe even just a fear that my content isn't good enough or isn't resonating with anybody. And then I also wrote like not prioritizing or giving myself time for my videos and posts and overcomplicating. And so I also put some actions on here to hopefully counter that. One idea that I have is just, keeping a content bank of ideas. And anytime I'm like, I don't know what to post or I don't know what to write about, I, just look at that content bank and see what feels good and go with that. I also plan to continue to work with my editor. She did my last video, and I hope that will also help me get unblocked in places I get stuck. And so that was what I did during this second portion, or step 2. I 1, rated my life areas from 1 to 10, 2, decided which life areas I wanted to focus on for the next 12 weeks, and then 3, turned those into 3 actionable, tangible goals, including milestones and actions that I would need to do to make this happen in the next 12 weeks. So then step 3 is the next part that I want you to do, and I will do as well, which is taking those milestones and those tasks and getting them scheduled. So I like to block time on my Google Calendar. I will do that really quickly. And then otherwise, it really is taking it week by week, looking at everything, writing out those to-dos, making sure you set aside time for the top 3 goals that you have so you can make progress. So yeah. That's what I'll do now, is at least do the Google Calendar, and then maybe I will do some plan with me videos week by week, because that would be great for accountability to show you how I plan out my weeks. All right, let's get to putting things on the calendar. All right, let's take a look at my Google Calendar and how I plan out my time. On my calendar, I like to use a separate calendar for each goal, as well as just general things in my life. So I have a personal calendar where I put anything that doesn't really relate to my goals, but it's a part of my life. I have my birthdays, I have my work calendar. Let me flash that on and off. Those are blocks of time that I know I cannot do anything else with. And then I have my 3 goals. So in the past, I had a financial goal, health and wellness goal, and business content goal. And I have them as 3 separate calendars, and they are color coded. And so I can just quickly see which event on my calendar corresponds to my goals. And I will definitely keep my fitness or health and wellness calendar on here. I mean, in the past it was a goal, but now I feel like it really is just a part of my lifestyle, and I'll just keep it on there because I'm scheduling classes anyway. But I'm really going to focus on adding time to my financial calendar and then my business calendar, since those are the main areas that I'm going to prioritize. And so usually I set aside blocks of time where I want to make sure I just put in some time for my goals. Don't feel like you have to have a massive chunk of time, because it's real life, like ideally it'd be great to work on like one passion thing for 8 hours a day, but I know you probably have a lot of things going on as well. But I'd at least encourage you to try to get like an hour a week, ideally maybe an hour a week for each goal. And so for example, maybe I already have this money date on here, but I do want to get more intentional and better with my money date. I'm gonna keep it on here, but I have a money date a week, and then I also have some other tasks that I want to do. And so maybe I do these tasks during my money date if I don't have time to do anything else, but I could also maybe add a block here for financial. And then maybe I block out some focus time for my business on Mondays. And so now I have blocks dedicated to my business goal and to my financial goals, and that is what I'm going to do during that time every week. I'm going to schedule it also as a recurring task, so it happens every single week. Another thing that I really like is tasks. And so my tasks are these dark gray items that you see here. You can move them around and lay them over your time. I go in and layer the tasks from what I wrote down here on my calendar. It might be including my major milestones, but also as I'm planning every week, I also go in and fill out other tasks that are related to my goals. And that is a really quick overview of Google Calendar. If you want, I can do a more in-depth video. Let me know. I kind of feel like this video is already getting pretty long. So there you go. Let me close this out. So step 3 is pretty chunky. It is the biggest part of my 4-part method. It really is doing the actions and making sure you're progressing week over week. I like to put all of my main milestones and actions that I wrote down on my calendar, but then I'm also going week over week and breaking it down into smaller tasks if I need to, moving things around, but always making sure I'm moving forward. At the end of every week, I also reflect on what I've done. I remove things that aren't relevant. I move things forward if I need to tackle them another week, and I just keep doing that until the end of the 12 weeks. Then step 4, which I'm not really going to get into too much on this video since it's in the future, but after your 12 weeks are over, it's about reflection and setting yourself up for the next 12 weeks. So really just reviewing what you did over your 12 weeks and rating your life areas again, deciding if you want to keep focusing on those life areas or change it up and focus on another area. That is it for me today. Thanks so much for spending time planning with me. I hope that you were able to also plan out your 12 weeks. And if you need any more help, I do actually have a free set of goal setting sheets. I'll put them in the description. It's basically my old planner layout, but it pretty much walks through the same exercises that I just did for myself when I was planning out my 12 weeks. I also have my planner waitlist in the description as well if you're interested in checking it out. And thanks so much for being here. I will see you next time. Bye.